What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is The Flash Season 3, Episode 18, Abra Kadabra. This was a good episode. Just a lot of really interesting things going on, pushing the story forward, and it's so nice after having to sit through Supergirl and suffer through that show. The very next day is The Flash, and it's just so much better. All around, just the characters, the relationships, the story, through action, all of it is so good. So this one has a guy from the future. Apparently he's from the 64th century and somehow is still Barry's rival. I don't know. That part kind of confused me just a little bit. Just the fact that it's like, oh yeah, I'm from the 64th century and yet I know you, Barry Allen. I've fought you before several times. Like, what's Barry doing in the 64th century? So yeah, it was a lot of fun seeing the guy come back from there, and honestly, when I first saw him, I was a bit concerned that it was just going to be, oh, this is just going to be some random episode, not going to do with anything, just some random villain to fight. But as it turns out, because he's from the future, he knows who S.T.A.R is, and he knows what happens with Barry, and so Barry's trying to utilize that, utilize that information to, I guess, find out what's going on, find out who S.T.A.R is, find out how to save Iris if possible. Meanwhile, Gypsy is also trying to get him because apparently he killed her former partner slash boyfriend slash lover, possibly, I don't know. But she wants revenge on him, and so she wants to take him back to Earth 19 so he can be prosecuted and executed. But, of course, Barry, because he knows who S.T.A.R is and because he possibly knows how to save Iris, wants to keep him here and let him go so that he'll give him that information. So, that's pretty much the story for this episode. There's also something going on with Caitlin where it's kind of gone a little bit back and forth with her and Julian. Like, their romance started up kind of out of nowhere for me. I wasn't really sure how I felt about it just because it seemed like they didn't really have a whole lot of time together on screen before they just sort of, oh yeah, we like each other. But they're dealing with some of their problems, but she's also, Abra Kadabra is about to escape and he tosses this little thing that blows up and Caitlin gets stabbed through the stomach, and so now she's trying to guide Julian through doing surgery on her so she doesn't die. So those two stories kind of made up most of the episode. The Caitlin stuff was very much on the side, and that's honestly one of the best things about this show is that they keep the side character stuff on the side. Unless it's going to be something big for the story like the Killer Frost stuff, they normally keep the relationships, Cisco and Gypsy were talking throughout this one, but it's mainly on the side. It never takes full focus, it never takes center stage, it never takes away attention from the main plot. And that's the biggest thing. It's just, in other shows, especially Supergirl, it's so easy for them to just say, oh, let's just go over here and focus on Alex and Maggie for a second. Oh, let's go over here and focus on Jimmy being Guardian for a second. Oh, let's go over here and focus on John Johns for a second. And it's like, well, where's Supergirl? This show, it's mainly about Barry. But the side characters still get their time. It's just not nearly as much as Supergirl, where they just love to focus on that and take away a lot of attention from the main story. So, Abra Kadabra himself, I don't know, he wasn't the best villain they've had on the show. He was definitely very interesting with his powers and just all the stuff that he did. Obviously, Abra Kadabra, kind of a stupid name, but watching him do his little tricks, appear and disappear, then make the guys appear inside the tank and then fill the tank with water and kills them, which, by the way, the fact that they're willing to kill off random civilians shows they're willing to take a chance, because some of these shows, they don't like to do any killing. Obviously, Arrow does, but it's a completely different show. I don't know, it's interesting to see, oh, the guards died. It wasn't like, oh, the Flash got there just in the nick of time. No, they were late. They didn't see it coming. But his powers were interesting, but his character wasn't that interesting. I guess because it was a little too hammy for me. It seemed strange. And part of that, I guess I can attribute to the fact that he's from a different time period. He's not from right now. So it does kind of work in that sense. But at the same time, he seemed too much like a cartoon character for me. But that was a little thing. His powers, like I said, were still cool. But we see they do capture him at one point, but Joe wants to let him out so he can find out who S.T.A.R is so he can save Iris. But ultimately, he of course escapes, gets the pieces he needs to build a time machine, but before he can leave from the time machine, to get back to his time, Barry comes in, takes him out of the time machine, and it flies through the portal, and now he's captured again. But this time Barry gives him the gypsy and says, I don't have anything to offer you, so you can go, but pleads with him one last time because he's a human, saying, you must have somebody that you've loved before, so I'm begging you, please tell me. To which he says, oh, well, I've always been jealous of S.T.A.R because he's been your greatest enemy, but now maybe I can be because I don't tell you who S.T.A.R is. I'm like, yeah, that's definitely going to make you a big enemy. You're an idiot. But of course, that's not how they're going to find out who S.T.A.R is. I'm sure if they are going to find out in the next episode, it's going to be something dramatic, some sort of dramatic reveal. It's not just going to be, oh, this random guy appears from the future and he tells Barry exactly who he is. So, yeah, I didn't expect him to tell him, but it was just it was a little bit of an emotional moment for Barry to have the chance to find out, but know ultimately that this guy isn't just going to tell him for no reason. So, on to the Caitlin stuff. Just like I said, the stuff between her and Julian, I don't see it as much. I don't see them together. And part of that has to do with the fact that they just haven't spent a whole lot of time on screen together. It feels like that came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they're together. They were flirting within like maybe 2 or 3 appearances together. And so that's why it just sort of seemed like, oh, they're putting them together now? And then all of a sudden they're together. I'm just like, okay, well, that's interesting. And then all of a sudden they're apart again. Julian feels like she doesn't trust him, or that she only brought him in so that he can help her because he's an expert on metas. And so I'm just like, well, okay then. I don't understand what's going on, but sure. But we see in this one, it does have a point because there's a moment where, like I said, she gets stabbed in the stomach when Kadabra's escaping. And so now Julian has to operate on her while she guides him. And so it's kind of a connecting moment for them where they have to work together to save her life. But ultimately, after all that's said and done, the final scene goes back to Caitlin, and all I can think is this isn't good. Something bad's about to happen. And we have, for the second time in the Arrowverse, we have somebody who was seemingly okay, and then all of a sudden was not. Same thing happened to Laurel on Arrow. Like, there's a moment where the doctors had saved her life, she was completely fine, and then all of a sudden she seizes and she's dead. And same thing here. Caitlin seemed fine, they operated, they stitched her up, and all of a sudden she seizes and she's dead. It's so bizarre that the same exact thing happened, but because she is secretly a meta, they pull off her necklace so that she can re-heal as Killer Frost, but of course that also releases Killer Frost in her, and so now she like blows everybody back with her freeze powers, and then now she's Killer Frost and she shoots her freeze at somebody. Not sure who, but I'm assuming that she froze somebody. I'm assuming. But anyway, so that's kind of how that ends. The Cisco and Gypsy stuff, I don't know, I like Cisco as a character. He's probably one of my favorite characters on this show. But just seeing him like this, very desperate, very, oh, you like me. It's like he's overconfident. Like, he's done this before with Hot Girl. Like, he seems like, oh yeah, I'm the coolest guy in the room and you dig me. I don't really like it when he gets like this, because the Cisco that I come to enjoy is the Cisco that makes jokes and jokes around, but he's also a big nerd, and so you hear him making all these references to Star Wars, and he makes a Gandalf reference, you shall not pass. So that's the type of Cisco that I enjoy seeing, but whenever he gets in this super overconfident, arrogant state where he's just like, girl, you dig me, you totally in love with me, come on, you know you love me. It's too much, because every single word out of his mouth is like that. I'm just like, this is why, Cisco, you're not gonna have anybody, because you're kind of an arrogant prick whenever you get like this. I swear, every single word whenever she's around, even whenever she's like leaving and she's upset, he's just like, I got this, guys. Baby, come on back. I'm just like, oh, shut up. So yeah, I don't really like this whole Cisco Gypsy thing, mainly because it turns Cisco into an arrogant prick. But ultimately, it does create kind of, I guess, a little bit more character development for Gypsy, so she's becoming a little bit more of an interesting character. for me. So that part was okay, but yeah, Cisco's part was not not that good. So the final thing to talk about is, of course, what leads into the next episode. We see Iris and Joe sitting on the couch, and Joe's telling her about whenever she was a baby, he was so worried she might die that he would actually stay up while she slept to make sure that she was alive. I'm just like, wow, Joe, you're kind of a paranoid, scared. I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is. Coward, I guess. I mean, I understand as a parent. Obviously, I don't understand as a parent, but I do understand from hearing stories, and my parents were obviously very protective. I understand that parents do get very protective, and they want to protect their kids, and they want to make sure they're safe. But to stay up all night with your baby to make sure, that they're still breathing in the middle of the night, I don't know. That just seems a little bit too much. It's bizarre to me. Maybe Joe's just like that, but of course they're talking about that, and the bear's just like, I have an idea. I think I know what we need to do. And he starts talking about, S.T.A.R, Kadabra, Thawne, all of them had an edge on us. They were always one step ahead of us because they knew what the future held. I'm like, no, Barry. Don't do it, Barry. He's just like, so that means we need to utilize that as well. Just like, no, Barry. No. Don't do it. I'm going to go to the future. Just like, idiot. I don't get it. I don't understand Barry's thinking. I do understand Barry's thinking. I don't understand why he's not really thinking this through. Because here's the thing, Jay Garrick is now in the Speed Force trapped, which means Jay Garrick's not going to be able to show up and get him out of a bind. He's not going to be able to do that. So now Barry's pretty much on his own. And so he's just going to travel to the future. He's going to get all this information, and he's going to go back, and yeah, it's not going to end well. I'm sorry, but anytime anybody tries to change the future, anytime anybody tries to mess with the timeline, whether it's trying to fix the past, trying to change the future, whatever it is, never works out. You look at Thawne. I mean, honestly, Thawne tried to change well, actually, no, he was trying to make sure everything stayed intact. That was part of his thing. But now he's gone back and changed the future because Barry, after what Barry did, the whole Flashpoint thing, he still has the ability to go and change the future. And on top of that, now his existence is in peril. So it's really been affecting him, though, because the Black Flash has been trying to get to him. When Zoom changed the timeline, I think, pretty sure he changed the timeline. But whenever he changed some stuff, I mean, the time race were coming after him. When Barry changed some stuff, the time race were coming after him. It's like anytime anybody tries to change time just says, I'm going to mess things up even worse. I mean, look at Flashpoint. Barry tried to change time. It fixed it, but things were ultimately getting worse. Well, Barry changes it again, and now things are still worse. His parents are still dead, but on top of that, Cisco's brother was dead, and Caitlin has her Killer Frost powers manifesting. So I look at all this and I think, why do you think it's a good idea to go to the future to try to change the future? Like, you've already seen so many instances where this doesn't work, it just makes things worse. How do you know that this doesn't end up with Iris and Joe and Wally dead? What if all the West die because of this? What if you trying to change the future ends up in Cisco or Caitlin dying, or Julian, or HR, or even you? You never know what changing the future or changing the timeline can do, and yet he just so nonchalantly said, I'm going to go to the future to find out what we need to do. Idiot. So, that's going to be mainly the next episode, it looks like, just from the previews. It's going to be a lot of him talking to people in the future. It is interesting. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, I'm frustrated with Barry. But that is kind of part of the show. You're supposed to be frustrated with Barry. You know that his thought process is wrong, but you also understand why he has this thought process. He feels like he's out of options. I don't know. I wish he'd think things through a little bit more, because you kind of get the feeling that this is just going to make things worse. But all in all, still a good episode, still enjoyable, a lot of fun, action's good, acting, characters, all good. So yeah, good episode, looking forward to the next one, and that's about it. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What did you like and dislike about this episode? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Flash reviews. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.